So for this next one, it's a pretty famous logic problem that comes up in some really old math textbooks that, that are kind of on the ancient side of life. So I thought we'd throw it in there. This problem is most like when you go to work the MyMathLab problems, like the problem with tents. It has people sleeping in tents like they're going camping and you're figuring out how many tents to get. So this problem is most like that problem. So we're supposed to figure out ways to get a sum of 11. So remember, sum means we're adding. And I know it doesn't say it on here, but I'm going to add kind of to the directions to make sure we're all thinking about this the same way. We're only dealing with natural numbers. No decimals, no negatives, no zero. We haven't got to those yet. As we go through the semester, we'll introduce decimals and negatives, but we don't have that quite yet. So I want you to see if you can come up with 12 different ways to make a sum of 11. So for instance, like 5 plus 6 is 11. And if you want to put 6 plus 5 as something different, you totally can. I think that's fair game. So go ahead and pause it and see if you can come up with 12 different ways to make a sum of 11. Again, no decimals, negatives, or zeros. All right, so let's see how we did. I'm going to put up the most common ones. And most people cannot do this problem. So do not feel bad if you could not do the problem. And then we have that 5 plus 6 and 6 plus 5. I already wrote. Most people can get to right there and then they're kind of out. They don't know what else to do. There's actually a study done, it's kind of old now, that asked students this at different grade levels. And they were much more successful the younger the student was. So the early and elementary grades were much more successful than as you got going into like high school and then college. We're not nearly as successful at finishing this problem, which I think is interesting take on it. So this is what most people got. If you got more than you kind of saw, it's a little bit of a trick to it. But all of these that are listed only have two numbers. Nowhere in the problem did it say you could only use two numbers or that you couldn't repeat things. So for instance, you could have 9 plus 1 plus 1. That equals 11. Or you could have 8 plus 2 plus 1 or 8 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. All of those have a sum of 11. You could have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 11 times. You could have 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. So there are literally like tons of these that we could come up with, and you just come up with any 12. So like I said, a little bit of a trick there to that problem. Alrighty, let's look at, going back to the tenths. So the tenths is going to tell you what numbers to use, but remember you can repeat numbers and you're not limited to just 2 tenths. So you might have an 8-person tent and then a 2-person and a 2-person. So you can use more than one 2-person tent, for example, when we get to that problem. That's why I said that those go hand in hand.